Patriota! Venha comigo contra os comunistas e traidores da pátria! Vamos resgatar nosso país, nossa bandeira!
Ninguém deve passar. O quê? Ninguém deve passar. Que seja! Agora ponde-vos de lado, digno adversário. É só um arranhão. Arranhão? Vosso braço caiu. Não caiu. Então o que é isso aí?
Ordenar é progresso!
A vitória é minha. Nós vos agradecemos ao Senhor por essa... Lúcio, o quê?
Oh, hello. Welcome to System Fail, the show that believes in using the right tool for the job.
The violent attack by a stranger inside Nancy Pelosi's home.
Good Lord.
Video shows shattered glass doors in the fashionable Pacific Heights neighborhood of San Francisco.
We should mention that Nancy Pelosi's home is very well known, very accessible.
Rich, poor, old, young, it doesn't matter. You can be a victim.
Good Lord.
Hammer time.
82-year-old Paul Pelosi was struck on the head and torso with a hammer.
Paul Pelosi was violently assaulted.
Good Lord.
With a hammer.
With a hammer.
A hammer. Good Lord.
I am your host, DDoS. And with the US midterm elections rapidly approaching,
God damn it!
The American media is once again focused on this strange biannual ritual, where humans with clean criminal records choose their political representatives from a pre-selected list of actors, liars, psychopaths, and hacks.
The midterms.
Can you believe it? It's finally happened, or it's closer to happening.
I feel like we've done this every week.
You used to say an election night. I call it election week now. Could be election month.
Yeah, could be.
The illustrious war criminal, Sir Winston Churchill, once described democracy as the worst form of government, except for all the others.
We are the chosen few. I can't remember it.
I've
got one of the best memories you can have.
I know, sir, but that's quite all right. Quite all right. Don't worry. Look at the camera and start again, sir.
Incidentally, his own government killed Alan Turing, whose contributions to the development of artificial intelligence have fundamentally transformed democracy into something Churchill would have scarcely recognized.
Their targeting tool used to be export control to the British government, so that would mean weapons-grade communications tactics.
And sown the seeds of its inevitable replacement by algorithmic governance and cybernetic terror. But I digress. From the perspective of the ruling class, democracy is the least worst system of government because of the flexibility and sense of stability that it provides to the ultimate arbiter of capitalist property relations, the state. Under a democratic framework, popular anger that might otherwise develop into riots, expropriations, and armed attacks on state institutions is instead stripped of its revolutionary potential and directed back into established political channels through a process known as recuperation.
The ruling ideology sees to it that subversive discoveries are trivialized and sterilized, after which they can be safely spectacularized.
Not only does this system regularly demobilize social movements, but it isolates those who refuse to be recuperated, leaving them more vulnerable to state repression. Although it remains a shockingly resilient tool for social control, democracy has seen diminishing returns in recent years.
Voters see democracy in peril, but saving it isn't a priority.
After decades of broken promises, flagrant corruption, and blatant hypocrisy, most humans have become thoroughly disillusioned with the entire political class.
About 1/4 of Americans trust government. A whopping 73% do not.
To fight this growing skepticism, and to distract from their own personal failings, politicians from all political stripes have doubled down on so-called culture wars, pouring gasoline onto the flames of polarization in a desperate effort to inject a sense of urgency back into electoral politics.
This is the most important election of our lifetime.
This is the most important election of all our lifetimes.
This is the most important election of our time.
Politicians say every time, this is the most important election.
This is the most important election.
This one's really that important.
And to mobilize their shrinking bases of support.
The left has decided to try to destroy our culture.
The MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
Nowhere has this process been more intense than in the territories ruled by the Brazilian state. On October 30th, the country's residents went to the polls. Despite widespread reports of fraud, vote buying, and voter suppression by police,
passa de 1.100 o número de denúncias de assédio eleitoral.
Se o Bolsonaro ganhar, eu dou 15º salário.
Nós vamos dar boi de 20 arroba.
Cada vai ter 200 pouco no bolso.
A PRF acabou de parar esse ônibus. Tentativa de atrasar ao pessoal para que o pessoal não chegue no local de votação.
Far-right President Jair Bolsonaro was defeated by former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, better known as Lula. Bolsonaro's supporters took it particularly hard.
Começou a chuva. Estou escutando aqui da minha janela. Deus chorando por nossas escolhas.
Não desampare esse país, Senhor!
In Minas Gerais, a drunk Bolsonaro supporter went on a shooting rampage, killing a man named Pedro Henrique Dias as he was celebrating Lula's victory, and a 12-year-old girl named Luana Rafaela Oliveira Barcelos. As the election results were announced, people took to the streets across the country, calling on the army to intervene and, quote, save the country from communism.
Exército brasileiro, nós imploramos vocês! Andar pela cidade não adianta! Adianta derramar lágrima debaixo dessa chuva! Olha pelas nossas crianças, não por esse velho!
Over the next 24 hours, Bolsonaro's allies in the agribusiness and trucking sectors brought the country to a standstill, blockading more than 200 roads and highways in 21 of the country's 26 states. Sao Paulo Guarulhos Airport was blocked, causing the cancellation of dozens of flights. Other supporters set up their own smaller blockades, using whatever they had on hand.
Estão tudo revoltado.
O cara subiu aí, o grevista disse que não vai descer. Você vai descer? Chega de sermos burros!
Não, você é burro, cara, que loucura. Como você é burro.
These blockades were tolerated and in several cases directly facilitated by members of the country's notorious Federal Highway Police, the PRF.
A Polícia Rodoviária Federal, em nenhum momento, vai chegar para vocês para atritar.
Na verdade, a gente está prevaricando.
Brazil's working class moved quickly and decisively to smother this attempted coup in its initial stages. Shipbuilders in Angra dos Reis began dismantling barricades on Monday night. Favela residents mobilized to do the same in cities and neighborhoods across the country.
Resolvido. Vamos tirar tudo, vamos abrir. Cadê os playboy lá? Bando de pau no cu. Aqui é a favela, porra.
The MTST, or Homeless Workers Movement, called on its militants to open up access routes. Calls went out from anti-fascist groups to take the street and block fascist mobilizations.
Aqui estão os antifascistas! Antifascista!
And finally, swarms of football ultras jumped into the mix, motivated, in some cases, by class solidarity and in others, anger that Bolsonaro's supporters would dare to try and shut down the country during the National Football Championship.
Vamos ver o Galo, independente de qualquer coisa. Vou passar todo mundo, vou passar! Tropa do Fura bloqueio, buceta! Pode tirar! Tira essa porra, isso! Qual é que é? Vai tomar no cu, porra! O povo não vai recuar não, porra!
Although it now seems clear that the attempted coup d'état has failed,
Sei que vocês estão chateados, estão tristes. Eu quero fazer um apelo a você. Desobstrua as rodovias.
Ele tá pedindo pra gente recuar? Por favor, o que ele quer? Alguém pode me dizer?
Quero ver quem que tem coragem de encostar ali e queimar o próprio carro. Só que eu sou homem, já rasguei meu título de eleitor. É esse governo corrupto ficar? Eu vendo minha casa e vou embora pro Paraguai.
Bolsonaro has still not officially conceded the election, and has another month in office to weigh his options and plan a final show of defiance. Over the past 4 years, he has proven himself to be one of the most shameless politicians in the world. And he still has millions of unhinged supporters to call upon, should he choose to do so. And while Lula has promised to curb the deforestation of the Amazon and rein in attacks against the country's indigenous groups, he is also far from the communist boogeyman that Bolsonaro supporters have made him out to be. Lula is a neoliberal centrist who has made numerous alliances with right-wing politicians and whose previous terms in office coincided with record bank profits, the recuperation of many of the country's social movements, the modernization and militarization of the country's police forces, and the violent so-called favela pacification programs carried out in the slums of Rio de Janeiro.
Tanto petistas dos movimentos da sua órbita estão achando que ainda não é movimentos de ir pra rua, então isso pode ser prenúncio de que o futuro vai ser assim. Se a gente tinha um consenso petista antes de 2013, a esquerda, como todos os movimentos sociais, foram trazidos para dentro da instituição para gerir cultura, gerir programas sociais, e todo mundo que questionava isso era tratado como pode ter algo parecido desde já, mesmo no primeiro dia de Vitória, mas acho que a gente tem que ser muito mais esperto para mostrar que algo radical, alguma mudança, só vai poder vir de movimentos que estão rompendo com esse consenso, tanto tomada de Estado pela via autoritária, quanto a gestão humanizada do neoliberalismo que a esquerda propõe.
Meanwhile, in France, on October 30th, 7,000 protesters descended on Sainte-Soline to disrupt the construction of a proposed megabasin, a large artificial water reservoir intended for industrial monoculture corn production. Fearing the prospect of a new ZAD, or Zona de Fondra, police attempted to ban the protest and dispatched 1,700 gendarmes and 6 police helicopters to defend the site. Turns out, this wasn't enough. In the clashes that followed, 61 gendarmes were injured, 22 seriously, along with 30 protesters. Militants succeeded in reaching the site and digging up a pipe that had been installed to fill the reservoir. A permanent camp has been established in a nearby field, and 2,000 eco-defenders remain on site to block future construction.
I fart in your general direction. Your mother was a hamster, and your father smelt of elderberries.
Is there someone else up there we could talk to?
No, now go away or I shall taunt you a second time.
And finally, in Italy, anarchist prisoner Alfredo Cospito launched a hunger strike on October 20th to protest his indefinite detention under the country's brutal 41 bis regime, an anti-terrorism designation characterized by intense sensory deprivation and isolation. On October 25th, Alfredo was joined in his hunger strike by fellow anarchist prisoner Juan Soros, who is currently serving a 28-year sentence for an explosive attack on the offices of Matteo Salvini's far-right Lega party. Since then, demonstrations have been held outside of prisons across Italy, and several small solidarity actions have been carried out in Germany and Greece. Comrades have vowed to escalate attacks and are calling for more international solidarity actions to put pressure on the Italian state.
We have a few weeks to save Alfredo Cospito's life, to prevent his assassination, but most importantly, to give a signal of counterattack to what is happening. The state is responsible for the life and health of our comrade. Let's mobilize around the world. Let's pressure the Italian state so that Alfredo can be released from 41 bis.
We have now reached the end of this episode of System Fail. You can support Submedia by buying some gear, making a one-time donation, or signing up to be a monthly sustainer on our website, sub.media. A huge thank you to our latest sustainer, Andreas. Be sure to follow us on your favorite corporate data mining platform of choice, or on federated social media platforms like Mastodon or PeerTube by searching for Submedia. Or better yet, sign up to our mailing list to get each new episode delivered directly to your inbox. Godspeed, humans.